All right, today we're talking about how to know your numbers as a business owner. My guest today is Michael Shu. I'll tell you more about him in a second, so stay tuned.
Welcome to the Smart Business Revolution podcast, where we feature top entrepreneurs, business leaders, and thought leaders and ask them how they built key relationships to get where they are today. Now, let's get started with the show.
All right, welcome everyone. John Corcoran here. I'm the host of this show. Every week we talk with interesting and smart CEOs, founders, and entrepreneurs from all kinds of companies and organizations. We've had Netflix and Grubhub, Redfin, Gusto Kinko's, YPO, EO, lots of other ones in the archive. So go check those out. And of course, this episode brought to you by our company, Rise 25, where we help B2B businesses get clients, referrals, and strategic partnerships with done-for-you podcasts and content marketing. And I absolutely love the ability to talk to interesting people I've never met before, like today's guest, Michael. And I have never connected before, and we're going to have a great conversation. We're going to share some of his ideas around how to know your numbers as a business owner. And beforehand, we were chatting, and it turns out we have a lot in common, including having gone to the same alma mater. So I love that about this. And if you are interested in knowing more, you can go to rise25.com or email us at support@rise25.com and learn all about it. All right. And before we get into this episode, first shout out to Ami Kassar of Multifunding. Go check out Multifunding if you need any funding needs for your business. He's a great guy. He's been a guest on this show a couple times before, and he introduced us. And our guest is Michael Shu. He's the founder of DeepSky, which is a company that provides outsourced CFO services. And he helps entrepreneurs with businesses anywhere between $1 million to $40 million, help CEOs make financial decisions by focusing on what is most important for sustainable growth. He's got a couple other companies as well, which we will talk about. And he has been very active in Entrepreneurs Organization, which I have been as well, which is how we connected. But Michael, I'm so excited to have you here today. And you've got some crazy stories. Usually people have got one or two story about doing a lemonade stand like once, and you've got a couple of crazy stories from when you were a kid. So first of all, you in your high school decided that you saw all these other clubs that were selling candy on campus, and you wanted to also, so you just went and did it. You didn't have a club, and eventually they figured that out. I love
Right.
this. So you just like started selling candy on campus. Like, yeah, did you make up the name of a club? What did you do?
I didn't. I didn't think much of it. I was at Costco and then I realized they have these big boxes of candy. And I'm like, these are the same thing that they were selling on campus. So I just borrowed some money from my mom, bought 3 or 4 boxes, and then started packing them into these big Ziploc bags because that's what everybody did. I just started selling and then got tired of selling it. So I started hiring my friends to sell it until one day somebody came asking us like, what club are you guys with? And we're like, what club?
Oh, you had to have a club? So that's
Right.
funny. So you're just like selling it, profiting it. And do you remember, did you have a bunch of extra candy now that you had to part with after that?
No, we actually, so it was really funny. I ended up when they shut me down, I did actually start a club, but that was really later on in the game. I decided to call it Asian Movie Appreciation Club, which we just watched movie every Wednesday night. But during that same time, I had figured out they had vending machines. And I forgot where I was reading about it, or where I was reading about it. And I was looking in the teacher's lounge and they don't have a candy vending machine. So I had some money from, saved up. I also have some money from, selling the candies. And I ended up buying the candy machine and then putting it in the teacher's lounge. I just talked to the right people, asked around, be like, is it okay if I do that? And I'm pretty sure I don't remember how much it was, but then I had to again, ask my mom for a loan and it's like slowly paid her back with the money. But I think I made that back within months. So it was just absolutely amazing. So I
Joke's
ended up
on
selling
you.
candy to the
Joke's on you. You won't let me sell candy to my classmates. So instead, I'm going to put a candy vending machine in the teacher's lounge.
Turns out teachers have a lot more money than students.
Well,
So,
that's a good insight, actually. Yeah. That's hilarious.
right.
And then you went on from there and you started making custom computers until, in your words, Michael Dell put you out of business. So tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, I love computers, and then every kid wants the cool computer. I remember back in like the early 2000s, late 90s, early 2000s, we had those computer machines, like the window you see inside it got LED, RGB lights going on, and I just couldn't afford it. I remember they were like $2,000, $3,000 if you were to buy them from Best Buy, or back then,
which is
was
a lot
it
of money back
Big
then.
City? Yeah, it was a lot of money. I mean, for a high school kid, it's a lot. Then my cousin took me to a computer show. Then I realized all the parts added up to what, six, seven, $800. That's a good margin, right?
Yeah.
My cost is six, $700. My labor was zero, right? And so I was selling computer for $1,500, $2,000, and I was able to customize them, build them. And same thing, that actually helped me. That actually helped me pay for my first car that I bought in sophomore year of college. And
Hmm.
yeah, it was a good time.
Yeah. Actually, that never goes away because I just did a heat pump at our house the same way. I looked at all the different parts. These HVAC companies wanted to charge me an arm and a leg. I was like, I'm just going to do this myself. So I did.
Right.
But then, so at what point did Dell come along and start to erode your business?
It's got to be my sophomore year because I stopped doing it in my sophomore year of college. So what is that? Maybe like 2000, maybe like 90. Yeah. So I graduated in 2005. So that's 2003, 2004. So
Yeah.
their prices just came way down. I mean, their prices were, I remember Dell was the first time selling, $1,500 computer, 999 computers like in Best Buy,
Yeah.
right? Now you're looking at one to $200 margins, and people are thinking, well, there's this, do I buy it from Best Buy or do it from this, buy it from, my dorm mate?
Yeah.
So when you're having a $1,500 or $2,000 spread, I think it's a lot easier to play with. But when you're playing with $100 to $300, you can't compete.
Yeah,
So,
and everyone was buying computers from Dell at that time. And then there was Gateway Computer also. I bought a computer from Gateway, which had the big boxes with the white and black cow print on them, which was crazy
right.
to me. I was living in Washington, D.C., and I bought a computer from them, I think through their website. And I come home one day, and on my front porch in Washington, D.C., there's these massive boxes that might as well just say, like, here's a computer, steal me. They left it on the front porch. I couldn't believe it.
That's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah. All right. So you decided to go through that. What drew you to accounting? Because you decided to study accounting. First of all, you seem like a personable, charming guy, got a lot of charisma. And accounting, no offense to the accountants out there, is kind of a dry kind of business. What drew you to that?
Yeah. Every time people ask me that, I say a lie. And the
The
liar
lie
was my
drew you to it.
mother.
Yeah.
Yeah, the liar was my mother who told me that I wanted to drop out of high school and start a business. Ever since the candy machine, I thought I was gonna have a candy machine empire, and then but that's not an option for an Asian kid in America, right? You
Candy
you go to
Candy Machine
college.
Empire. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
you go to college and you get a degree and you either become a doctor, a lawyer, and if you can't cut it, then we'll settle for an accountant. And that's what it was. And so my mother, but I wanted to do business, and the lie was my mother told me, if you want, you need to know your numbers if you want to do business. That's the only way, which is
How did
true.
your mom know this, by the way? Was she a business owner?
She was not. She was not. She took care of. She was a homemaker, and my dad was a business owner. My dad was an entrepreneur. But I don't
But
know. She
that's a
just
pretty profound statement from someone who wasn't a business owner to say that to you.
Yeah, she's extremely smart. Probably one of the smarter people that I know in my life. But that's what she told me. You got
Yeah.
to know your numbers. You got to know your money. But the reason why I say it was a lie is because when I went to school, that's not what they taught us. That's not what they taught us in accounting school. They taught us dotting the i's, crossing the t's, debit and balance. Really boring stuff, like exactly what you said in the beginning, like very dry, very compliant stuff. And that actually planted the seed because I was so frustrated with it. I wanted to quit freshman year, I want to quit sophomore year, and then by year three, I graduated. And
Hmm.
then I went on to go to grad school because I didn't learn anything in college. So I have a master's in accounting because I don't know what I was doing in undergrad. But the point is, what I realized was that numbers are important, financial literacy and financial intelligence are important, but that's not what accounting taught me.
Hmm.
And that's why that sort of planted the seed for DeepSky and measure and hack method and everything I'm doing today, even CFO Club, which was to educate both CEOs and financial professionals the application of numbers and money into business.
I want to get into that, but I skipped over another story that I wanted to find out about, which was you actually grew up in Taiwan, correct?
Yep.
And decided that you wanted to move to America. Tell us the story about how you got here.
Yeah, that's another. The short answer is Disneyland. Then every time I say that, people think that's funny. But the truth is, I came to America when I was 9, went to Disneyland, fell in love with it, and then told my parents that I want to come. So they sent me again when I was 10 and put me into summer school. And I'm thinking this is the easiest school in the world. And we did 1 hour English, 1 hour math, and then we went to Disneyland, in the afternoon. And at that time I nagged my mom. And sometimes your parents tell you, hey, if you do A, I'll do B, knowing that you'll
Yeah.
never do A,
Yeah.
which is what my mom did. She was like, hey, if you get into the first 10th place, so we have tests in midterms in Taiwan. If you get into the top 10, I'll let you go to America. I'm never a top 10 kid. And lo and behold, I got 10th place.
Hmm.
So she puts me on the plane in 94, December 94 winter break, and sent me by myself to America, to LA, live with a family friend. And she was thinking, I have let you now move to America and you're going to want to come back, and that's on you. So she
And it was
called me every
supposed to
day.
be just winter break that you were there.
It was supposed to be winter break, but she told me she had let me move to America,
Got
right?
it. Got it.
Right. So she called me. She's like, "You miss home? Yeah. You miss mom? Yeah. You want to come home? No." And we did that for 3 months.
So you
But
start
but
taking classes there. You go to local school. Okay.
yeah, and what I really appreciated about my mom was that she wanted to keep that promise, even though it was a 10-year-old. She could have bought me a transformer and I would have forgot about the promise.
Yeah.
But she made the promise, she kept it, and then she started figuring it out. She started figuring out the visas, the schools, and all that. And I stayed. And I think that was one of the time in your life where your life just changed, your trajectory just
I
changed. And
think
I
I've never
forever
heard a
appreciate it.
story of someone moving to a country, the United States or otherwise, at age 10 because they set their sights on it. I mean, others, like you set their sight on it and like years later in their 20s or 30s or 40s finally make it. But that's crazy that you made it at age 10.
Yeah, it was incredible, but mostly because my parents were just again it just left a lesson, right? Like make a promise, don't make promises easily. Make a promise, do it.
And follow
So
through. I mean, you followed through on it. Like she said, here's the path to move to America, and you did it. You made it
yeah,
happen. Yeah, that's
yeah.
incredible. So you get your master's in accounting, you end up working for a firm for a year or so, and then decided this isn't for me. I need to start my own thing. Which is pretty quick for someone, to go out from a lot of times people kind of apprentice in an accounting firm for longer before going out and starting their own firm. Tell me about the early days of starting your own firm. Was it as easy as you thought it would be, or did it take a little while to get traction?
Oh my God, it was 1,000% harder than I thought it would be. When we started out, we were just an outsourced bookkeeping firm, really. I didn't, I wanted to start a real business, which to me at that time was import export or whatever that means. But then I didn't have any money. So all I had was my skill and my time. So I did what I did best, which was accounting. So we did bookkeeping, did consulting. I remember my first client, I quoted $100 a month. And then my partner at the time was so afraid that they're gonna say no. As soon as I said 100, he goes, "Oh, but you know what? Because you're smaller, we'll give you a discount. It's $50 a month."
Jeez, wow.
I was at my firm, I was billing $270 an hour.
Wow.
And then overnight, I went from $270 an hour
To
to 50
50.
bucks a month.
Kind
It
of hard to
was
be
it was a
profitable
long
at that
time.
rate. Yeah.
It was super tough, but I was really lucky. I had a lot of teachers and mentors along the way, and big shout outs to EO. I actually very quickly met my first mentor. I think a year into my early career, and he taught me everything,
Was
introduced me
it
to
through
EO.
EO?
No, I went to a Inc. magazine's conference. That one I just couldn't afford, have no business to be at, and again approached this guy, and I was like, "What's the secret to becoming a multimillionaire?" And most entrepreneurs in my career, I realize are really generous. They're willing to share, they're willing to give. And he introduced me to EO. I signed up with a Accelerator at that time.
Oh, great. Yeah, I did Accelerator as well. Yeah,
Oh, Accelerator is the best program.
it is.
It's amazing. It's
It is.
amazing.
What did you like about it?
I think it's different things. They say your environment shapes you, right? Like the what is the 5 or 6 monkey rule? Like your level is the same as the 6 people that you hang out closest,
Yeah.
right? And then at the same time, it's structured. It's got the 4 day strategy, money, people, execution days. The programming is amazing. The people is amazing, and the network is just like it forces you because you're always like, what is this guy doing? What is that guy doing? Oh, I can take this and you're just consistently being pushed forward and the monthly accountability. And even today, I thrive on accountability because we all know what we're supposed to do. Make more money, spend less.
Hmm.
But accountability is just so hard.
Yeah.
And accountability to self is harder to accountability to others, which is really weird. Like
Mm.
if we tell ourselves we want to do something, it's too cold, I'm too tired. If you tell someone else you're going to do something, and if that someone else is someone you respect, you're gonna
Yep.
show up.
Yeah. And probably someone in that EO Accelerator community told you, dude, fifty bucks a month is too cheap.
Oh yeah. Well, I couldn't join you accelerated at $50 a month, but at that time maybe like $500 a month. But
Okay,
yeah,
you worked your way
absolutely.
up by then. Okay.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So you start Deep Sky, and then you've got these other initiatives as well. Tell us what measure and hack is.
Yeah. So measure and hack method is it's a methodology that I have gathered. Like I said, it's a collection of practical ideas and functional tools around using numbers and systems to achieve our goals. So very much like EOS, very much like MAP, very much like scaling up, but the framework just adds 2 more things. So it's vision, strategy, execution, which everything that I mentioned talks about a lot, and then measure and hack. So measuring, know your numbers, track your numbers, what to track, how to track it, how often to track it. But most importantly is the hack. And the reason why I call it a hack is it's never about these overhauls, crazy big moves that we always think like, hey, if I get on this podcast, my business is going to kill it. If I get this client, my business is going to kill it. It's never that. It's always the collection of tiny little changes over time. It's the little things that you do every day over time. So that's why I call it a hack. I always love talk about like the numbers help us understand what's working and where the bottleneck is, and the hack is the one that's gonna unlock the flows.
And so, what is the hack?
It's
how do you
dependent
define
on
that?
dependent on where. Well, you got to measure, right? You got to measure. You got to put. So the way I say it is, people will say, "What is accounting?" The way I say it is like we quantify everything. We put everything. We put your entire business onto one single pane of truth onto a number. Your P&L tells you the performance of the business. Your cash flow tells you, where it is, what had happened. Your balance sheet tells you where you stand. It's all about past, which we extract lessons. It's about the present, where do we stand? And it's about future, where are we going to go? So once you lay everything down on a single pane of truth, it's very easy for you to spot your bottleneck or spot what's working and what's not working.
Mm.
And entrepreneurs are incredibly smart people that 99.99% of them know exactly what to do as soon as they know what the problem is. The
Mm.
issue is 99%, but 99% of them don't know what the issue is. So we ended up just throwing everything against the wall. We work so hard. We keep driving sales when our profit is the problem. We keep trying to fix our profit when cash flow is our problem. It's like we're always working on the wrong thing, you
Mm.
know? So that's really what it is. So the idea is measure so you know, and then hack on the things. It's like the rudder, right? The little tiny piece that's going to help your ship move.
And do you find that a lot of the entrepreneurs you're working with are not measuring the right things, or they're not, maybe they're measuring them, but they don't have a process in place for evaluating them, or they don't have that outside perspective or the right, team in place to help them to understand their data? Which one of these, or is it all of them that they
Yes.
struggle with? Yes, and all of it.
Yes. And the reason why is I think most entrepreneurs are again generalizing a little bit here. They're either great salespeople or they're great artists. They're great at what they do, if they're right, or they're great at selling what they do. Um, I know very little entrepreneurs who are financial literate or financial intelligent. Very little. I say maybe 10 out of every 100, probably even less than that. Even in EO. Knowing in EO, YPO, you have these incredible entrepreneurs that got great businesses that are doing amazing things. The problem is nobody teaches us this thing. And even for me, like I said, I have 2 degrees in accounting and a CPA license. They did not teach me this, right? The only
How
reason
did
why
you figure it out yourself? Was it books? Was it podcasts? Was it YouTube videos? Was it hacking away?
it was a lot of books, but then it was also what I realized very quickly as an auditor, because I started my career as an auditor. And there's two things that I realized. One, it's nobody knows what is going on. I always remember we had a new client. It was a $15 billion capitalization client that had to do an audit. Um, we had no experts in-house. We're doing internal controls, IT audits. And so what this firm did was they put me into a 6-hour lunch and learn, then put me on a plane, and then introduced me as the expert of the IT audits. So what I did was but I had the firm, as my background. So what I did was I sat across from the internal auditor. I asked all these questions, and the whole time the internal auditor was like, "Oh man, you came from a big firm. You must know all these." Like, "Oh, we're so embarrassed, but check this out." And I was taking down all these notes. Back then we didn't have ChatGPT, so now I can go back to my hotel and I spent the entire night Googling what the hell he was talking about.
Hmm.
So then I can understand it. And then the next day I'll come back. And that's the second thing that I realized, which was as an auditor, I have the backstage pass. Everybody assume I have the answers. So I started going around and asking everybody. I talked to every CEO, I talked to every CFO, I talked to every COO. Where does the number come from? Where does it go? How does it work? How does it flow? What is it that you care about? What is it that they care about? And I just put the whole thing together. That's why I call it the measure and hack method, because it was the application of accounting and finance into business operations.
Yeah. So tell me, you started this online community called FMF, Financial Mastery for Founders, and the vision behind it was a good one. It was to democratize numbers and allow founders to understand their numbers. But I'm curious around the business model around it because, you had outsourced CFO services, and sometimes it's hard to kind of draw that line between, what value does the community provide and where do I, avoid getting sucked in and providing what I charge a lot for less expensive in that community. So how did you figure that out?
Well, so financial mastery, the reason why is as a consultant, as a CFO advisor, or even as a team of CFO advisors, we're limited on the people that we can help. But in order for me to, even before I can help you, I realized that all CEOs have the same questions. Like, for example, question number one, I said is always, are we building cash or are we burning cash?
Hmm.
Question number two is, if we're burning cash, how long do we have? Right? And question
Mhm.
number three is, well, either we're building cash or burning cash, we're going to have to fix it, which is around profitability above and below the line. These are generic basic questions that every CEO needs to answer, but every CEO don't understand. So that's why something like financial masteries for founders can help them with that, because I can create content one time and then they can watch it and learn it on their own time. For me, there's knowledge is one of the things that's the best, because for me, by me giving that to you, I didn't lose anything. We just doubled the knowledge in the world. And that to me is fantastic. And that what actually makes it easier for us to work together if you were to work with me.
Mm.
So I don't see that problem at all, because there's just so much. We just as as a society, as the world, as human beings, we just don't cultures today, we just don't talk about money enough, early enough. And every time we do talk about money, it's almost always bad.
I
And I
I
just want to
couldn't agree.
I
I
want to
couldn't
change
agree
that.
more. As someone who grew up, not hearing about it that much from my parents, I don't feel like I had that much financial literacy, and I'm trying to change that with my kids, who are still young. You mentioned your dad was an entrepreneur. How was your how were your conversations with your father as a kid around numbers and money?
Terrible. My dad was he was not the number one man. He was the number two man. He was the integrator. He managed factory and was very diligent at it. But we didn't talk about it because it was, if you think it's taboo to talk about money in America, it's even more so in Asia. It's not not humble. I don't even know. It's like, oh yeah, it's not humble. It's not a humble
Okay.
thing to do.
Considered
In
like
Asia, it's
haughty
always
or like a pretentious thing to do or something. Okay.
yeah, yeah, but it's really funny. Nowadays, everybody talks about money. It's like they talk about money, but then they think it's a bad thing. It's a very weird hypocrisy. But the idea is that
Yeah. So there's a
yeah, you don't talk about
negativity
money.
to it. There's a negativity to
Yeah,
it, right? Yeah.
yeah. So
Yeah. So you didn't talk about it with him then. Yeah.
no, no, I did not talk to my father about business at all. He didn't let me know about it again. I guess it's that humble. Well, they really want me to grow up humble and not think, I'm some rich kid or anything like that. I wasn't, but. Yeah, you just did not talk about money, and I'm frustrated now. Growing up and looking back, and my dad had passed away 10 years ago, and I'm looking at his financials. Had he taught me financial literacy, had he shared with me his business experience, I would have been a lot more successful a lot earlier on. But the
Yeah.
issue is he didn't know how. So the
Yeah.
best way he can think about to not let me grow up spoiled is to not talk about it, which I think is the wrong thing to do.
How would you advise a parent today to approach that with their kid? At what age and how do they approach it?
Soon as possible. I say learn financial. Most parents don't have financial literacy either, but there's so much content out there that's available. So learn financial literacy and start talking about it. Understand that money is nothing more than a tool. And
Hmm.
and money is it helps the world go around. It's actually a great thing. It's not a bad thing to have money. It's certainly a terrible thing to not have money. So I think every parent needs to learn and understand about, how you make money, how you spend money, what is necessary, what is nice to have, and what is, kind of play money.
Yeah.
And once you have that basic financial knowledge, it's let your kid have a credit card as early as possible. Let them understand debt. Let them understand, responsibility. Um, I remember as a kid, I had a girlfriend overseas in Taiwan when I was in America, and I make these long distance landline phone calls, and the
Oof.
phone bill
Ouch.
was $700.
Oh, wow.
And my
Jeez.
mother very quickly let me know what it feels like to have a $700 debt that I had to pay back over the next 3 years.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So I think that
It's
conversation is important.
It's funny. I have tried a bunch of things with my kids. I've tried different systems that didn't work. The latest thing I tried is I bought a used electric car, which was not a fancy top of the line Tesla. And so my kids, I think they thought we were going to get like a really nice Tesla. So they didn't like it at first. But what I did is I tied it in with something they were passionate about. You can tell me if you think this is a good idea or not. My 8-year-old is crazy about football, NFL football right now.
Yeah,
And he wanted to go to a game. So I said, all right, here's what we do. All right, you will be the advocate for driving the new EV, which will save us on gas money. And I put on the wall, I wrote the amount that we'd paid in gas for like the last 6 months in a row. And then I put new columns for
yeah,
gas after we got the EV. And it turns out we cut it more than by half. And I
yeah,
said, I will get you tickets to an NFL game if you become the advocate. So I gave him ownership basically over that line item in our family
yeah.
P&L basically. And then I'm expanding it out. I'm going to do it with eating out, dining out costs, our line item. And I'm going to give ownership over that P&L to a different kid. Yeah.
Measure and hack.
Measure and heck. That's
That,
great.
that that's exactly what it is. That's incredible because once you put it up there, they see it.
Yep.
Because they don't feel it. They don't know what gas cost is.
Yeah.
Like, oh,
Yeah.
just gas is just gas. But once you put it on there and then they can see the difference, and then if you have that NFL ticket, it's like, whatever, however much it is. And then they can see that gap. And then I love what you say. You say they own that line item on the P&L.
Yeah.
That's like that's CEO-ship right there, right? Like most I always tell my clients, I'm like, I don't own your P&L. I provide you your P&L, but your P&L is a blueprint of your business. The people in your business, the operations people own that thing. That's why we have lessons like how does the CMO's job affect the financial of the business? How does the COO's job affect the financial of the business? It is only when it's relevant to them, then they can make changes. So I absolutely love that. Like you're like, hey, you're now the owner of the EV driving, right? And
Yeah,
then
yeah.
what did you say the other one was?
The dining out is the other one.
Oh,
That's
the
that.
di
I figured it was something that they could own and control. I mean, they like dining out, but I wanted to like kind of create like a balance so that they're not always pushing to go to McDonald's or In and Out.
Love it,
Yeah,
especially dining out. Dining out is the biggest leak, right? Because even
yeah,
for me, I pull out my credit card statements, and you're like, "Why is my credit card bill $15,000 this month?"
yeah,
And then you look at it, you're like, "There's no." You're expecting to see like a $3,000 something. No, you see is $70 here, $100 dining out,
yeah,
$150 here, $50 there, and those things are the smallest leaks, what we call leaks that they
yeah,
have. And you have that in business and you have that in your family. So I think it's
yeah.
incredible that you have an 8-year-old that is managing that. That's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah. I want to ask you also about CFO Club. So this is really interesting. It's kind of like you realize that there weren't enough, um, I guess, young CFOs coming up and they needed more training to serve this demand going forward. So you decided to create it. So tell me a little bit about that.
I was just so frustrated because I was very involved in the accounting world and I was like, in the thought leader symposium and the, 100 most influential accounting personnels and all that. But it's just like the entire accounting industry works in this vacuum. And while there are people being celebrated in there, in the real world, what I'm hearing from CEO is my accountants don't get this. My bookkeepers don't get this. I just spent $150,000 hire a director of finance, and I'm so frustrated because I'm asking them what to cut, and they're telling me the answers that I don't understand. And it's hard for CEO to ask a question 2 or 3 times, especially when accountants. What accountants do best is we make these very generic, very hard to understand, convoluted accounting talk answers to CEOs. And the CEOs are just like, okay, I don't get it, so I'm just going to give up.
Mm,
And that's frustrating because businesses go out of business, companies go out of business because of that, because they don't understand. I get so angry one time when I had a CFO, says, hey, you know what? I'm gonna quit because I think the company is not doing well. And yeah. And I go, you're the CFO. How
that's
did you not
that's
tell
what
the
their job is,
CEO this?
right?
That's literally your
Yeah.
job.
Yeah.
And so what I did was, and I realized, well, again, it was because nobody taught us this in accounting school. They have the skills. They have 95% of what they need. So this is what I tell in the accounting world to these accountants and financial professionals. I say, look, you're 95% the way there. Everything they taught you in school is great. This is the last 5%. And once you do that, I can tell you now more than ever, CEOs absolutely need this thing. You're in a unique position to create tremendous value for CEOs. So go out there and do it because otherwise, all they're doing is complaining about, oh, my CEOs don't appreciate me. They don't. I can't hire enough people, and it's just all the complaining.
Yeah.
I had one CEO who told me he writes $170,000 check to his accountants every year, and he tells me this. He says, worst check I have to write each year. Zero value.
Mm,
That's heartbreaking for me.
yeah.
So I just wanted to close the gap. So I started CFO Club, which is, a lot like this online community. We have lessons, tools, templates, basically taking everything we did at DeepSky for 15 years, everything that I'm teaching my own CFO advisors. We just created these lessons, courses, accountability, very, very, very EOA like, right? Very accelerated
Yeah.
like, just for these accountants and financial professionals who their interest is not just taxes, not just audit, but they want to become advisors and they actually want to provide for value. So that's
Yeah.
what the CFO is.
Yeah, that's great. Michael, you got so many interesting different projects. Before I get to finding out where people can go learn about all these different things, I want to wrap up with a final question. So I'm a big fan of practicing gratitude, and I'm also a big fan of giving my guests a little bit of space at the end here to shout out and acknowledge, particularly any like peers or contemporaries or mentors who've helped you in your journey in your career so far. Anyone in particular you'd want to thank or shout out?
First came to mind is EO as a whole. I think I always say this, EO taught me everything I know, really, starting from EOA and then provide me the network even today. I'm super involved in it. EOA, great programming. And from EO, I actually have three mentors. Uh, Michael Cato, number one. Well, actually,
I've
it's actually number
I've
three,
learned
but
from him before. He's great. Yeah, Michael's great.
yeah. So
Yeah.
Michael Cato, he runs math right now, and he's actually a client. It's really funny. My mentor become my client, but we work so much together. He's is incredible. Teach me about life. Actually, helped me through depression. I think 7, 8 years ago, and yeah, just incredible people.
Yeah. That's great. Michael, thank you so much for your time. Where can people go to learn more about you and connect with you?
Yeah, I point everybody to our online community, which is built on School, SKOOL. So if you go to school.com/numbers, that's where you can go for the financial mastery for founders. Or if you search on social media, Michael Su, HSU, I'm on most social medias on there.
Awesome. Michael, thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Smart Business Revolution podcast. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.